Hello everybody, it's a pleasure to be here. Some familiar faces, some familiar names that I've spoken to abroad through Zoom calls for a couple of years that have trusted in us throughout the years, and a lot of new faces here today. So it's a pleasure to speak to you all, tell you a little bit about what we're doing. Given this is a new story for most of you, I'd love to introduce myself first and foremost. My name is Daniel Lamadrid. I'm CEO and co-founder, as Trevor mentioned, along with my brother, of Hola Media, Latin America's leading advertainment platform. In short, and to give you guys some context on how this came to be and who I am personally, we had the privilege of being born to a commercial airline pilot as a father. I was born in Cancun, Mexico, moved to areas such as Saudi Arabia, Hawaii, Vancouver, South Carolina, back to Mexico and beyond. And among those experiences, of course, you start picking up on certain idiosyncrasies of markets, of cultures, of trends and opportunities. And one of those trends that really spoke out to us, which I'm confident to say that most of you will attest to and that we really felt strongly about, was the digitization of just about everything around us and everything that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. And nowhere did we believe that was more prevalent than in the media and advertising ecosystem. Every day there is more digital capabilities in targeting and being more efficient with that advertising spend, being able to return, to generate and value that return on investment, as well as attribute that investment, and understanding that if someone goes into the sports shop and buys a pair of Nike shoes, is it because he saw them on the windowsill and liked them, or because he was targeted with a numerous amount of advertisements along the way that led him to that purchase decision. So without further ado, what I'm here to present is Hola Media. In short, what we do is connect brands with on-the-go consumers through interactive touchscreens in rideshare vehicles. I'm sure most of you are, in some form or fashion, familiar with the traditional screen model within taxis in cities such as New York, Las Vegas. That's a model that we identified, that we knew well from firsthand experience, but that we felt that on one end didn't really tap into changing landscapes and innovations relating to connectivity, relating to technological infrastructure, and that really didn't add any value to the passenger trip experience. I'll get into Mexico and Latin America as a region shortly, but to also put into perspective, the average Mexican resident spends between 2 and 2.5 hours a day commuting to and back from work. We're in the middle of a mobility ecosystem that's undergoing, in our opinion, one of the fastest transformations since the introduction of the Model T just about a century ago, relating to key macro trends such as the electrification of vehicles, connected mobility, autonomous mobility, and the exponential growth of rideshare. In short, what's happening is that every day, every year, more people within vehicles are transitioning from being drivers to being passengers, opening up opportunity to be entertained, to be informed, to be educated, and as a commerce opportunity as well. On the other end, we have an increasingly saturated media environment. There's constantly more companies, more brands, more products competing for the scarce good that's human attention. And what we really set out to do was find a strategic location that would allow us to really tap into trends in mobility, into the digitization of the media and advertising ecosystem, which I'll get into, and be able to truly add value to all parties involved. Now, as a quick company snapshot, we began operations early last year. We grew from zero to where we are today with a screen network of just above 1,800 screens. We are headquartered in Mexico City. We now have operations in Guadalajara and Monterrey, two large Mexican cities in addition to Mexico City itself. We recently closed off trailing 12-month revenue of close to $1.5 million US, close to 2 million Canadian. We have monetization now upwards actually of $200 US on a monthly basis. And growing. I think that's the key aspect to take out of this. We have a product that's been validated in terms of users. From an average trip time of roughly 32 minutes in Mexico City, we have over 60% of users or trips interacting with the screen for an average duration upwards of 9.5 to 10 minutes, without taking into account passive entertainment and communication opportunities. And be it whether we're selling a traditional video format or interactive campaigns and branded game, we have industry-leading benchmarks, which we'll get into as well. Now, we've talked about digitization here, and I think it's no secret, but when my brother and myself were looking at the landscape of out-of-home advertising, which is traditionally everything that's by definition out of the home, other than radio and so on, it was digitizing, it was innovating, but it had innate limitations in its ability to truly digitize. What do I mean by that? We have billboards that are now reflecting advertising creatives in a digital fashion, but in most cases, it's not much more than simply ad serving in an LED screen. Most of what makes digital advertising truly beneficial for brands and agencies is the ability to tap into measurement capabilities, to leverage interaction, which humbly I say I don't see how a billboard's ever going to have first-party interaction. As a consequence, it's very limited in its ability to capture first-party data on the user. As a consequence, it's very difficult to attribute that advertising spend and understand that customer journey from outside the house to an actual retail location or point of sale location. So our whole premise was, how can we truly begin to offer an out-of-home location that taps into the merely digital benefits that makes digital advertising so interesting? So what we have today as Ola Media, we offer all of the above in terms of the digital benefits. We have interaction, we have first-party data capture, be it an email address, be it a cell phone number, be it passive identifiers of a mobile device and beyond. We have the ability to measure ROI on campaigns and audit and verify all the metrics that we're offering brands, which a billboard or traditional billboard simply can't do for its offline nature. And I think the critical piece here is be able to leverage all of that we're doing and that we're capturing from that user and be able to generate a tailored, personalized one-to-one communication with an audience. By tapping into those benefits, we're really able to tap into both advertising budgets, both digital, innovative, technologically driven, as well as the offline, traditionally out-of-home advertising budgets. And both of those together tap into a market opportunity of over $700 billion globally. Now, we are focused in Latin America. We're headquartered, as mentioned, out of Mexico City, which beyond having personal ties to Mexico as a market, is a very strategic location for us. 5 of the 6 fastest growing digital ad markets worldwide are in Latin America today. We do have first mover advantage in the region. In terms of a rideshare market, it's extremely mature. We have over 1.8 million rideshare vehicles in Latin America and over 46 million unique rideshare users in just Brazil and Mexico alone. And we're talking about a rideshare market in Mexico. That's the second most important market for leading rideshare companies such as Uber and Didi. For Uber, Mexico City is its biggest market outside of Sao Paulo, which is also in Latin America, and for Didi outside of Asia. So very important markets for us. And I think the key point here to drive home is that Mexico City as a city or market as well also serves as a hub for a lot of these companies, both in terms of rideshare operations, but perhaps more importantly so in terms of marketing and advertising decision making. So the big 6 media agencies, which account for roughly 80% of national ad spend, not only have their national headquarters in Mexico City, which allows for media buying agency to acquire our inventory nationwide from one single point or decision maker. But we also have companies such as Netflix and beyond that have their whole Latin American regional advertising decision making taking place in Mexico City, which makes expansion opportunities extremely seamless for us. This is our business model. In short, we have a 3-sided business model, which we like to call our value triangle. Beginning with drivers, we pay drivers on a monthly basis for allowing us the opportunity to install a screen within their vehicle. We pay drivers based on activity tiers of the screen to ensure that we align interests of the proper promotion and activity of our screens in unison with their monetization that they can see. And that payout that we offer drivers equates roughly 18% of their rideshare earnings. Now, to put into perspective here, we're talking about a Mexican market that since Uber's entrance into the market in 2013, 2014, roughly speaking, a rideshare driver makes roughly 60% less today than they made at that point in time, which is a staggering data point. And up until now, really drivers will never, so much as we saw on the slide prior, the amount of vehicles that we have in the market. But more than anything, it's a no-brainer for them because we're paying them for doing the same day-to-day activity that they do either way. They increase their earnings, they increase their tips, they improve their ratings, which generates more trips for them on the rideshare platforms. And without any marketing push, without any active recruitment on our end, we have an active pipeline of over 2,000 drivers that are interested in having a screen, simply from the word of mouth and positive experience that other drivers have with us. Secondly, passengers. I think data in many senses speaks for itself. As mentioned, we have an average trip duration of roughly 32 minutes. Over 60% of trips interact with the screen for an average time above 9 minutes. So users love the content. And again, that was one of our founding principles, to truly add value to that trip experience. And lastly, in terms of brands, we've also been able to achieve quite pleasing validation up until now in the past 18 to 24 months. Brands are trying the platform, they're flocking back, they're referring us to other brands within their portfolios. Their agencies are referring us amongst their companies within their agency. And be it whether we're talking about ad viewability, which measures the ability for an ad to be seen, whether we're talking about completion rate of advertisements, specifically video, or whether we're talking about click-through rates for interactive campaigns, we have market-leading benchmarks that are unrivaled in the market. Now, in order to tap into this, and I've mentioned briefly here, adding value to the trip experience, what does that really mean? We have a proprietary Android application that we've developed in-house. We have proprietary formats such as trivias, games, polls, videos, podcasts, as well as, particularly video production that we're getting into shortly here, that allows us to be very agile with our content development team in terms of generating contents that are relevant to an audience of very many interests. Be it an older gentleman Monday morning entering work, or be it a youngster on a Friday evening looking for a good rooftop to have a beer. We have contents for all of them, a lot based on discovery around the city, restaurants, bars, what to do, and so on. And secondly, we're also tapping into reputable content partners that we work with. So we have exclusive partnerships with companies such as Spotify that bring the video podcast format to our screens. Azteca Deportes is one of the largest broadcasting companies that has sports highlights as well as original productions, sports related, within our platform, Business Insider, Entrepreneur, and many others. And by offering this combined effort of formats and content for both the passive as well as for the engaged user, we're able to generate monetization opportunities upwards of $400 monthly of revenue potential. Now, to be very transparent with you guys, we're not focused in the next 12 to 24 months merely on maximizing unit economics. There is a very important part of generating positive and fundamental financials for the company, but there is an aspect of scale and growth that is extremely important for us, for which we've established a steady state monetization objective of just over $200. That's going to offer us upwards of 65% gross margins, but also the ability to continue reinvesting that revenue into the continued growth of our screen network. As a key point here on the bottom right-hand corner, may not be very visible to most of you, we have directly monthly costs per screen on a monthly basis of roughly $67 to $70 US, which includes tablet leasing, data connectivity costs, and the driver payout. In essence, everything that's required to maintain a screen on the road. Now, what has this looked like in our brief history as a company and what we've been able to achieve? We've had 6 consecutive quarters of record results. We've maintained our screen network relatively constant over the past 12 months. We've been sensible to the macroeconomic environment. We've been wanting to prove both to ourselves internally, but even perhaps more importantly so to the general investment public, that we have a scalable business model that's validated and that's ready for growth capital to continue expanding. Quarterly revenue per unit is close to $250 quarterly per screen, as opposed to the $210 that would require to maintain those screens on the road. Important mention here is that we have been gross margin positive since December of last year. So every screen that we currently have on the road is generating positive returns for the company. And on the bottom, some of the large blue chip companies that we worked with in the past. And important to mention here again, companies such as Coca-Cola that we began with $5,000 monthly campaigns, which grew to 10, which all of a sudden began permeating to the other brands of the Coca-Cola portfolio, be it Fanta, Fresca, and many Sprite, and many other of their juice and water brands within the Mexican marketplace, and beyond that. Now, in terms of growing that commercial traction moving forward, everything that we just saw on the prior slide has been accounted for by one full-time salesperson. We're talking about 6 media buying agencies that account for roughly, again, 80% of the national ad spend. Each one of these large media buying agencies has roughly 100 clients within its portfolio of brands. And it's impossible to expect one single salesperson to be able to attend to 600 top nationally renowned, globally renowned advertisers. So something that we've been doing over the course of the past couple months is invest in the growth of our commercial team. We have recently onboarded a chief revenue officer, which I'll get into greater detail with moving forward. We've hired another full-time senior salesperson, building out a junior sales force to continue expanding and plugging away at those clients and that we've been working with, as well as the prospects that we haven't even had the opportunity to knock on their doors of. But perhaps more so is also to invest in the continued brand credibility. While I mentioned earlier about the media ecosystem, and we have the Metas, we have the Googles, we have the TikToks and the Amazons, which aren't direct competition, but at the end of the day, no matter how innovative our platform is or how much added value we offer, brands aren't taking new budgets out of their wallets to invest in us. And at the end of the day, we are investing with the big dogs in the industry, and we do need to prove a clear value add for them. And a lot of that is centered on not only executing on short-term campaigns, but more so proving to them that we're a partner that they can grow and make money with over the course of the next 2, 3, 5 years. So a lot of that is investing in relationships, that's social investment with the agencies, the advertisers that we're dealing with, really generating that credibility where even if they don't drive or ride an Uber too often, they hear about us, they see us, their colleagues are investing in us and beyond. And that's something that we feel very strongly about doing, which up until the past couple months we hadn't done. We're now present in key industry events. My brother, who wasn't able to be here today, is right now in a conference in Cancun called Brand 100, which is an industry event of the top 100 advertisers in Latin America, which is an event that just 1 year ago we didn't have the scale to participate in, but where we are today, and again, rubbing shoulders with these key brands, key portfolios, key media platforms that we're competing with on a day-to-day basis. Now, as a quick snapshot of our historical financials and guidance, we're really growing very rapidly, commercially speaking, and there is no limit in sight to how fast we can grow this moving forward. We closed off last year, beginning with 0 in sales in Q1 of last year. We ended last year with roughly $450,000 in sales. We're currently, as mentioned, close to $1.5 million in trailing 12-month revenue. And we have an objective of over $1 million in Q4 revenue. And again, that's something that we continue to transition to subsequent years. Up until now, we've been plugging away with direct advertisers and the agencies and kind of looking for that excess budget that they have available on a month-to-month basis. And in these events that we're participating in, the conversations that we're having with reputable companies that we've been working with over the past months and years, we're now in discussions where we're planning for investments for 2024, where for the first time we're going to be entering a calendar year with established relationships, with commitments and objectives with key brands as to how big we want to take this moving forward. We have estimates anywhere between $6 and $7 million in revenue next year, and to continue growing that upwards of $14 million is a very conservative number here in 2025 revenue numbers. Yes?
How many screens is that in 24 and 25?
Yeah, so on the bottom side, on the bottom graphs, we have the active units, translates directly to the number of screens that we have on the road. As you can see, as a testament between Q2 and Q3 of this year, it's been relatively steady. We've begun investing in new expansion markets such as Monterrey and Guadalajara. We're looking to close off next year with roughly 8,000, 9,000 units, with our first expansion market being either Colombia or Brazil of next year, and really close off 2025 with a screen network of roughly 19,000 screens, at which point we're going to have roughly 50% of that in Mexico nationwide and roughly 50% of that throughout the Latin American region. Lastly, and to close off here and open it up to any questions or comments you guys may have, we have a leadership team with the ability to execute on this vision that we've put forth here today. Again, the company was founded by my brother and myself, me in the CEO role, my brother as a chief commercial officer. We recently onboarded Isela Abarca. It's not a name I expect any of you to be familiar with, but she's a very hot name in the Mexican media sales market. She opened up companies such as Teads, Retargetly. She's been on agency side with agencies such as Matterkind. Again, not sure if any of you will be familiar with those names, but we're talking about multinational companies that have valuations in the billions of US dollars. And she has been their first hires in the Latin American region based out of Mexico City. And she's been in charge of growing up those teams and entering new markets such as Miami for regional operations, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Peru, and beyond. She's someone who bought our vision from day one. She bought the team that we had in place. And that's very, very involved with the upside that this business is going to have moving forward. On the right-hand side, we have key investors and advisors, very reputable names. The VP of Partnerships at Twitch, for example, the Chief Digital Officer of Publicis, which is Mexico's largest digital media buyer as an agency and one of the world's largest. Luis Prados, the ex-CEO of Clear Channel Mexico, Clear Channel being one of the most well-known traditional out-of-home advertising companies with billboard locations throughout the world, and of course Paul Andriola and others that are a part of this team. So having said the above, thank you for your time first and foremost.